Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Monday, June the 30th, the last day of June before we move into July, which means that we have Titans training camp on deck in 23 days from now. Well, I guess the report day is 23 days from now. Technically, the first practice is 24 days from now, but we are under a month. We are excited about it, and something that Titans fans were excited about but didn't really see the dividends on was L'Jarius Sneed in 2024. He was their biggest ticket acquisition via trade and then a contract that he was given after he was acquired from the Kansas City Chiefs. Mike Borgonzi did the deal on the part of the Chiefs, and Chad Brinker was responsible for negotiating it on behalf of the Titans. The Titans got the raw end of the deal and are now saddled with 3 more years of L'Jarius Sneed if he can't get back up to even close to his level of performance that made him a 2-time Super Bowl champion and arguably at one point the best defensive back in football. So you're going to hear from Sneed tonight. And in fact, we aired last night. I didn't see it in time. I didn't see it until basically prime time was over, that Sneed audio from yesterday, but it's okay. We have time to talk about it this evening, and we will get to Bert at the end of the show to update us with another giant defensive back trade, this one a much bigger scale with more famous players involved between the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Miami Dolphins, and also a Titans legend tossed into the middle of that, who reunites with Arthur Smith, but we'll wait until the end of the show to get to Bert on that front, and we will talk about L'Jarius Sneed's bold proclamation about his 2025 season here in just a little while. Share the broadcast around. You know how to do that. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You know the vibes. Wherever you are hanging out, text the link to a friend, depending on what streaming platform you're hanging out with us on. We are always grateful when you do just that. And once you've done that, more of you will trickle in, and we will look forward to having this discussion amongst ourselves for the last time this week. This is the last primetime show of the week because of the holiday. With all the time off that we have coming up, I'm off prime time Wednesday and Thursday. I'm off radio Thursday and Friday, local radio, though we are still doing Fox Sports for you. So if anything happens, you can tune into Fox Sports Radio, and I'll have coverage for you on Thursday, Friday, and even Saturday, as a matter of fact. I'm doing a lot of work for Fox here in the last couple of weeks and months, but that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. We're here to talk about your corner, and can he get back to even remotely close to the L'Jarius Sneed of old? We'll hear from him in just a little while. First, we have to start the show. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Monday, June the 3rd. I'm your host, Buck Rising. Lovely to see you. And I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the South's most trusted Ford dealer. That's Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, or online at tworiversford.com. Employee pricing for everyone. Tell you more about that later. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, or online at tworiversford.com. I believe I've already said that. TrueMath Fitness is where you go for your fitness goals. We are in the peak of summer, the peak of pool and lake and beach season. Doesn't mean if you have not yet accomplished your fitness goals that you should hang it up for the summer and just let it rot. TrueMath Fitness is there to help you maintain and improve your physical fitness with your first workout free at truemathfitness.com for more details. All right, L'Jarius Sneed. He, like so many other players, L'Jarius Sneed gives back to his community. And in this period of time, the 6-week break that we have during the summer months before everybody returns and reports back for training camp, a lot of players hold these youth football camps in their various hometowns. Cam Ward did one, as a matter of fact, in West Columbia, Texas, where he is from. And there's some audio and video from that from local news stations that were there to cover it. Sneed held his in Shreveport, Louisiana. He is a Louisiana native and played his college football at La Tech, and is also in the business of giving back to students and aspiring young athletes who look up to professional athletes like Cam Ward, L'Jarius Sneed, Jeff Simmons, or otherwise, as a means of, hey, he made it out of this current circumstance in our hometown. Maybe I can do the same with the right work and the right athletic ability and all these other things, right? It's a pretty common thing this time of year. In fact, just about every NFL player does one. Hell, Will Levis has one coming up in Nashville, I think at some point in July. But either way, L'Jarius Sneed's camp in Shreveport is where a local NBC affiliate caught up with him and they asked him about everything that's been going on in the last calendar year since he signed with the Titans, where it has been a disappointing thing up to this point. But L'Jarius Sneed had some very strong words, and dare I say, even a bold proclamation as to what he may have for his 2025 season, or what people should be looking or expecting from him in this 2025 season. This was L'Jarius Sneed, courtesy of the local NBC affiliate in Shreveport.
I'm healthy as I've been. Last year, my first year didn't go as planned, but it's time to come out and show the world and show what God been instilling in me this entire year. I'm ready to get back on the field, and that's my life. That's what I do for a living, and I missed the whole year. And everybody, I have to remind everybody who L'Jarius Sneed is.
So he's got to remind everybody who L'Jarius Sneed is. And who L'Jarius Sneed is now is a much different player from the L'Jarius Sneed of old, where he was thought of as one of the best corners in football. And your Two Rivers Ford take on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch is this in the comment section if you would like to jump in and participate. What are your season expectations for L'Jarius Sneed in 2025? It's presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, online at tworiversford.com. Employee pricing for everyone. I mentioned it earlier. You pay what they pay on almost every new Ford on the lot. Broncos, Mustangs, Explorers, Escapes. Two Rivers Ford has one of the largest inventories anywhere in the country of Ford F-150s, America's most popular truck. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more details, and enjoy that employee pricing for everyone. All right. So season expectations for L'Jarius Sneed. We know that he was, I don't want to call him an outright non-factor in 2024, but he was as close to a non-factor as a $17.5+ million player should be. He had an injury-shortened season, obviously. That's not his fault. It was not the degenerative knee condition that we knew he had coming in and that he was going to have to monitor. But his whole thing is that he has to remind everybody who L'Jarius Sneed is. But the question becomes, all right, that I respect the position. I respect the attitude. That's the exact right attitude that he needs to have. But can L'Jarius Sneed, at this point in his career, get back to the player that he used to be? And what is the degree of difficulty associated with that, where now you are coming off a long-term injury, you are continuing to have to deal with this degenerative knee condition. You play the highest variance position in football. What I mean by that is it is so tough. I don't think there's a more difficult position to play and maintain a standard of play year over year than NFL cornerback. I've talked about this before, so forgive me if I'm in reruns, but think about the degree of difficulty associated with that position anyway. How much of it, I would argue, it is the most the position that requires the most athleticism, and how quickly athleticism can fall off or depreciate over a short period of time. You are working against the most talented players, arguably the best athletes or the second best athletes in professional football. And everybody, almost everybody, maybe the Titans don't have one right now, or maybe they could. We'll see what becomes of Calvin Ridley with some additional help. But almost everybody has one high-level wide receiver that can cause you problems. Plus, the way that the game is officiated does not benefit a defensive back in these situations. So even if you are playing the best version of your game, if you are subject to penalties, as L'Jarius Sneed is wont to do, he is somebody who is prone to penalties. He's prone to pass interference penalties specifically. Sometimes those are necessary. They become much more glaring when you're not playing on a good enough defense to make up for those things. Can L'Jarius Sneed actually regain that form? That's the question that we have to ask ourselves when you're considering season expectations for L'Jarius Sneed. Honestly, if you're asking me, I have no expectation of L'Jarius Sneed, which is a crazy thing to say about a player who was acquired to be the best cornerback in football. Maybe he's not paid like the best cornerback in football, but he's up there because a lot of you guys are saying Titan Kyle on YouTube wants or expects him to return to being a top 10 player at his position. Ken Caniff says the expectations are as high as his price tag. That always ramps up the level of scrutiny, of course. Vernon says, I expect him to be average. Anything above that is gravy. Ryan Fields wants a Pro Bowl out of him. 7 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles. He only has 10 career interceptions. So I would not bank on 7 interceptions. That is crazy. Jamar Williams says 19.5 bucks. Well, his cap hit went up, but his average annual salary on that 4-year deal is 17.6. But yeah, he's more expensive this year than he was last year. So is Calvin Ridley. So is Lloyd Cushenberry. That's typically how the structure of these big contracts go, especially when you have guaranteed money that you need to move around. L'Jarius Sneed's average annual salary is 17.6. His cap hit is higher than that this year, of course. Mike Bell simply doubts him altogether. He says he won't return as a top player. And D. Lee adds, here's my thing. Just because these corners get top-tier contracts doesn't make them primetime. To me, he is a solid, good corner. There are many in the NFL. Well, and the other thing is he's not on one of the best defenses in football anymore. That Kansas City is top to bottom one of the best defenses in football. Now, the Super Bowl was not their best game, and they arguably missed L'Jarius Sneed most in their most important game of the year last year, which was the Super Bowl, because A.J. Brown ran roughshod over them. And I'm not saying L'Jarius Sneed could completely stop A.J. Brown, but you need a big body corner, a long, lengthy corner, a physical corner to go up against one of the most physically imposing wide receivers in football, and A.J. is exactly that. Josh says he doesn't want to play for a rebuilding team, and it shows. That's an assumption by you, Josh. We don't know that. Now, I have reason to believe that he was not an overwhelmingly positive presence in the locker room when he was still around. Now, there was obviously a period of time where around and not playing, around and injured, right? I've talked to a couple of people on the team that said he didn't have a good attitude about the situation. It'd be tough. I didn't have a good attitude last year. You guys didn't have a good attitude last year. Nobody has a good attitude when the product ends up being 3-14. So from my standpoint, I understood it. It's completely natural for that to creep in. But also, when you're paid that amount of money, you are looked to be a net positive presence in the locker room and on the field. And he wasn't that last year. Now, he can learn from that. He can grow from that. I'm sure he wasn't thrilled to go from, Super Bowl champion to 3-14. That's a really tough fall from grace. There's no bigger opposite than winning the Super Bowl as last year in KC and being on the worst team in football the following season. He's somebody who has to. Josh, I'm not going to assume that he doesn't want to play for a rebuilding team. What I can say, though, is that he needs to learn from that experience and be the kind of presence that his contract value requires him to be, demands that he be. He needs to be a net positive on a variety of different fronts. And so I'm curious to see what happens. There's reason to believe that the Titans will be better. How much better they're actually going to be, I have no idea. All of that depends on Cam Ward. And while all the Cam Ward stuff is positive right now, all the Will Levis stuff was positive last year. So not that they're comparable situations. Cam Ward was way, way, way more productive and better as a college football quarterback than Will Levis ever was. And in the NFL, I think the biggest mistake that we make is going with potential over collegiate production. And Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, those kind of players, those are potential players over actual production. Cam Ward is a productive player who also has potential. How much higher he can raise the bar for himself remains to be seen. It'll also be dependent upon what's around him. But I have no expectation of L'Jarius Sneed. I was against the deal to begin with, not because I don't like him or I didn't like the player he was in Kansas City, but I don't like the idea. I hate it. I think one of the worst decision that Rand Carthon made was drafting Will Levis. We know this. The second worst decision that Rand Carthon made during his short tenure as the Titans general manager is going out and paying Chido Awuzie a 3-year deal. They cut him 1 year in, at one outside corner, and then trading and paying for L'Jarius Sneed, another outside corner. corner contracts don't age well. In fact, I would argue that they age worse than any position in the NFL, especially on that second deal for all the reasons that I described earlier. The level of variance is really, really tough. He only played in 5 games last year. If you get double-digit games, and not like he started a game, but he ends up not finishing a game, or he goes out in the first quarter or halfway through because he's dealing with whatever he's dealing with, like actually plays in these games. If you could get 12 to 15 games out of L'Jarius Sneed this year, that would be a win, right? That would at least somewhat justify the cost. Now, he wasn't a great player when he was out there on the field, and the Titans defense was awful, and their special teams were worse, and the special teams put the defense in a lot of bad situations, and that is not not all of L'Jarius Sneed's fault. But when you're paid that amount of money, people are going to expect you to be great no matter what. Is it a realistic expectation? Probably not. But my position is, I think we have seen the best version. Like I think the best version of L'Jarius Sneed played in Kansas City, and Mike Borgonzi at the time got one over on the Titans because he did the right thing for the team he was working for at the time. Now it's Mike Borgonzi's problem again, and he's probably not thrilled about that, even though you take the opportunity to be an NFL general manager when an NFL general manager job becomes open. There's only 32 of them, and that is a more difficult job to be a retread in. General managers typically don't get hired again. Coaches seem to get rehired all the time. Retread coaches are far more common than retread GMs, so you really feasibly got one shot at this thing. So he's going to have to, Borgonzi is going to have to navigate through this whole thing very efficiently and effectively. And you can see that they've hedged their bets with the way that they've approached the cornerback position. They're picking up as much depth as humanly possible. They're also probably going to move on from Roger McCreary at the end of the season. McCreary's in a contract year, not drafted by this coach or this GM. And nickel corner commands a lot of money right now. The Titans aren't in the business of paying a lot of money just generally after the approach that they've taken. They're going to try and regenerate this thing organically. And Rodgers a fine player, but I don't think Rodgers a $20 million plus a year player. Maybe some of you would disagree. Maybe some of you would agree. I don't know your position on this. But with L'Jarius Sneed, my expectation is, his best years are probably behind him. And anything that you can get at this point, any playing time, any value added on that contract that looks to be the worst contract on the roster after 1 year, you need to get some kind of value out of it. It's a sunk cost either way. It's like Will Levis. Will Levis is a sunk cost. You're never going to get that second round pick that you spent on him and the third round pick that you traded for him. You're never going to get back that third round pick that you traded for L'Jarius Sneed. You're never going to get that guaranteed money back. That's gone. It's a sunk cost. Anything that you can continue to recoup on that value, that is the thing that becomes the precedent or the most important thing at this point in time, or takes precedence, not that becomes the precedent. Bad grammatical use there, but you understand my point. They need something out of L'Jarius Sneed because they have 3 years left on the deal. Now, they could move on from him at the end of the year and eat a little bit of dead money and just, wash their hands of the situation and move on. But for L'Jarius Sneed, we haven't even talked about the legal situation that's still hovering over him. And it seems like they are less concerned with that as more time passes. If it becomes an issue, then we'll have to talk about potential violations of the personal conduct policy from the NFL, because even if there are legal repercussions, the legal repercussions may not impact him, but the NFL's personal conduct policy would then impact him. And while I don't think he's going to get like a Justin Tucker 10-game suspension or anything like that, it would at least open up the discussion on, all right, availability matters here, and whether you're missing time for injury or legal troubles, you put yourself in the situation in the latter. How much harder does that make it? Because we haven't even touched on the difficult position that he has put the Titans in by at least whatever his level of involvement was in that situation, with a highly redacted police report that doesn't have a lot of detail in it. But there's a lawsuit out there. There are allegations out there, and it's just a bad look. It's a bad look all around for a player who was brought in to help change the franchise, and he is one of the biggest reasons why they looked stupid last year. So that's where I'm at on the L'Jarius Sneed circumstance. I think that's probably the most realistic way that you can go into this. Kelvin Jackson says, "Hey Buck, do you feel we can take back the division sooner rather than later?" Well, there's a couple of. I mean, we could probably do a whole show on that. I hate to, jump in on a conversation like that 20 minutes in when we have so many other summer shows to do. But I mean, here's what I'd say. If you put all four quarterbacks up next to one another in an NFL draft process, if they were all coming out at the same time, Lawrence, Stroud, we'll put Richardson in there just because he's a top 5 draft pick, and we'll put Cam Ward in there too. So those 4 players, Cam Ward might still pick if all things were equal. Now we know Richardson was not a good idea, but there was enough athletic potential for Richardson to be the number 4 overall pick, and most teams not think twice about that. Now we know that was not a good idea. We know that Trevor Lawrence has not been worthy of the number 1 overall pick, but he still was the best prospect since Andrew Luck. Best prospect that we had seen since Andrew Luck. Doesn't mean that he was going to be the best professional quarterback since Andrew Luck. Those things have different meaning. I think there's a world in which if you kept all things equal and you took their NFL careers out of it, just took them as prospects, most of you guys would still probably pick Cam Ward 4th out of those 4, which is crazy. And I know you may push back on that and be like, no, Lawrence is a bum, or CJ Stroud was a one-year wonder, or Anthony Richardson's never going to be good. And all of those things may be true, right? But as prospects, you're probably not picking the quarterback that all of you are in love with right now if all 4 of those players are coming out at the same time. So I say all that to say, if Liam Cohen fixes Trevor Lawrence, that's a huge variable in the middle of all of this, because Trevor Lawrence should be the best quarterback in the division. He is the best prospect, even though he's not a prospect anymore. He had the best potential of any of the 4 quarterbacks in this division. Anthony Richardson has the freakish athletic upside, but that doesn't translate into skill, or at least it hasn't yet. And CJ Stroud, they just fired his offensive coordinator. They took away a star left tackle, and they're trying to spread the wealth across that offensive line. But, if the Texans are vulnerable, the Jags seem most primed to take over, to overtake them right now. We'll see what Tennessee looks like. It's so hard for me, Kelvin, to answer that question in realistic terms until I actually see them play about a month of football, right? There's just no way for me to forecast what the Tennessee Titans in 2025 are going to be, other than, I've seen them practice like 8 or 9 times, and in minicamp, Cam had 1 good day and 2 less than good days because the defense got the better of him. That's not a fair sample size, good or bad, for me to make a judgment on what the Titans will be right now. So, as Josh Sabata points out, the AFC South sucks. Any team has a chance. Yeah, I agree with that. It's to me the worst division in football. I think the NFC South is still better than the AFC South, because the AFC South, I don't think any of these teams are actually good when faced with real competition. The Pittsburgh Steelers haven't won a playoff game in 8 years, and the Texans feel currently like they're in that same. They're good enough, but are they actually good compared to the rest of the league? The Texans feel like they're in that same weird spot. Maybe CJ Stroud comes back with a vengeance in year 3 after having a down sophomore campaign. They still won 10 games and won the division. So there's a lot of work to be done for me to answer. I would be gaslighting you if I said, yeah, sure, the Titans are closer to winning the division than not. There's no fact-based argument that would make that so. And I know that's probably not what you want to hear. And it's okay if you disagree with me. You can say, well, you don't know shit, and the Titans may go from worst to first this year, and I'll have to eat my words. But I'm just playing the percentages here and looking at what's most likely and looking how much more work they still have to do around Cam Ward, and saying, yeah, that's a tough thing to see right now. The picture is not yet clear. It will become more clear once we find out. It could be clear for the worse. It could be clear for the better. But we'll have to wait until, I would argue, mid-October to make any kind of determination about what the Titans are capable of doing, certainly in year 1 of Cam. And beyond that, and it's anybody's guess for as much as the league turns over. Boren on YouTube says, I don't understand how Lawrence was ranked as a top 10 quarterback. So that's Nate Tice, and Nate Tice is one of the smartest film analysts out there. What Nate is doing is he's projecting, not that Trevor Lawrence has been a top 10 quarterback, but that Trevor Lawrence will be a top 10 quarterback in 2025 based on the work that they've done around him. Now, that's a pretty big projection, but it shouldn't be because he's a number 1 overall pick. And arguably, he's one of the most traitsy and toolsy number 1 overall pick that the league has seen, as we've talked about, since Andrew Luck. So, like I said, if Lawrence hits this year, it completely changes the math on how difficult this division would be to win, because then you are dealing with C.J. Stroud and Trevor Lawrence, 2 players who could be top 10 at the most important position in sports, and that's not a division you want to exist in. Then it becomes something like the AFC West, where you're dealing with Herbert and Mahomes, and now Geno Smith is quarterbacking the AFC West at this point in time, and Bo Nix is an ascending player. It becomes a lot more difficult to fight your way out of this if there are 2 of them in the division, as opposed to everybody just looking up at the Texans at this point in time. Way too early to determine any of that right now. All right, we got, in case you missed it, there was a huge trade, I guess it's trades plural, although it's one total transaction here in the NFL today between 2 AFC teams, and we'll let Robert update us on that here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMathFitness.com, get your first workout free. As a Middle Tennessee resident, no workout ever recycled or repeated. TrueMath Fitness is there to go above and beyond for you. Go to TrueMathFitness.com. Get the best workout in Nashville at the awesome facility that they have conveniently located downtown Nashville in the Gulch. Awesome training staff, better workouts. TrueMathFitness.com for your first workout free. Hello.
Yeah, I was talking to Worth the other day. He was like, "What do you do to hit your buys and tries? Like, I need to mix it up over here." So I sent him some stuff, and they're mixing it in. Like he always likes to mix the creative juices with a fellow fitness enthusiast.
Have you seen the pictures that he posts when I go work out with him on Friday?
Me and him post for him all the time. When right after you leave, he calls me like, Hey, that the weak guy just left. You can come over and we can lift all the super heavy
group,
weights.
I probably am the weak guy. I got Worth played college football at Auburn, for God's sakes, and it doesn't matter how good he was. There was CJ Uzoma and Worth and their buddy Shannon, who also played at Auburn. Like, I'm definitely the weak one in the group. I'm okay with that.
Cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. Keep anybody else was there?
On this past Friday, Jason Pardick, who was on The Bachelor, or I guess The Bachelorette, and Hunt Havens, who has about 600,000 Instagram followers, but he remodels homes on Instagram for a living, and I think that's where he gets his following.
All right, here's what we need to do. You need to take me to these events, and I need
my workouts on Friday.
I need to weasel. No, I don't want to work out with these people. I want these people to like me, and then invite me to do things, and then I can glom off their success. And that's what I need.
To ask me like you did today on the radio show, hey, go use your clout to get me UFC tickets, which I am doing, by the way. And I probably will have better seats than you do, but you'll be in the building. You didn't say you had to sit with me.
You ain't gonna watch it with me, mother. You really pissed me off there.
I'm gonna be sitting ringside and I just wave up at you from the bottom.
Dude, we gotta that's some bull hockey. Kind of like this trade that happened today. The Pittsburgh Steelers agreeing to trade for Jalen Ramsey, former Titan Jonnu Smith, and a 2027 7th round pick in exchange for the Dolphins receiving Minkah Fitzpatrick and a 2027 5th round pick. So a 2-round jump up for the Dolphins. Not really. It's a fart in the wind as far as draft capital concerned. I think they're just happy to get Jalen Ramsey and a disgruntled, I wouldn't say disgruntled, but a guy who wants more money in Jonnu Smith. Yeah, just a little gruntled, just a little. I'll still eat lunch in your cafeteria, but I want some more money. They get both of those guys off the books. They get sent to Pittsburgh. The Dolphins get a reunion with Minka Fitzpatrick, who only got to play like 1 season and 4 games
Yeah,
in
it's not even a
Miami.
season and a half. It's crazy. I thought he was a Dolphin for way longer as the former 11th overall pick. That was the 2018 draft. I didn't realize Minka's been in the league that long, to be honest with you.
Super young player, a guy who kind of excelled at Alabama. One of those guys that he knew he was going to be a high draft pick. He was selected in the first round by the Miami Dolphins. The last time that the Steelers traded with the Dolphins was for Minka Fitzpatrick. So headed back the other way. I was under the assumption, and I still am under the assumption, that Minka's powers have not dissipated. His role in the Steelers defense kind of changed, where when he first got there, he was the rangy center field guy responsible for creating a lot of turnovers. Now he had kind of been reserved to a role of a strong safety, a border safety, somebody to kind of wrangle their tackles, because while the Steelers do have an excellent pass rush and good defensive tackles, they haven't really had a great linebacker play. They signed Patrick Queen. He has a high missed tackle percent. Landon Roberts, a lot of these dudes hit the bricks and left. So that was kind of Minka's role to wrap up the entire defense. And apparently the Steelers are trying to take the old Patriot way of getting out a year early, which is never a bad thing. I just think with the acquired cost, it might be a sunken value as far as financials are concerned. They get out from underneath Minka, but they acquire Jalen and Jonnu.
And they gave him a slight raise, Ramsey. He got about another $1.5 million, which puts him at 26, what is it, 26.6 million in 2025, which is crazy. So essentially $27 million for Jalen Ramsey at the back end of his career. For the same reason that I just described, I didn't love the L'Jarius Sneed and Chido Awuzie acquisitions. This is like the highest end version of that, right? He is paid like the top corner in football. You need him to be that kind of a player. You need him to be available as that kind of a player. And he was more available as of late. I really thought he was going to end up back in Los Angeles with the Rams, which is he was on that. He had to have been on that Super Bowl team when they first acquired Stafford. Memory does not serve me that well, but I would have to imagine that Jalen Ramsey was on that team.
You're right. He was.
So, for me, it doesn't, like, just because this is not usually how the Steelers do business doesn't mean that it's wrong, but it's weird, right? It's Aaron Rodgers on a 1-year deal. It's Jalen Ramsey on a short-term contract. It's Jonnu Smith for a year, right? There's no long-term solution at quarterback. Rodgers has already said that he is probably done after this season. Maybe he balls out and maybe he ends up in Pittsburgh at age 42. But again, then he's age 42. And is that a part of your long-term plan? Mike Tomlin's future seems to be more in flux than it ever was, even though, the Steelers do not make rash decisions specific with coaching. But this is all just, it's very un-Steelers-like. So I'm having a hard time processing it or seeing the vision. And the vision may just be, all right, we've probably got one more year doing this. So let's try and do this for one more year. And maybe they end up looking smart about it. But like if they go 10-7 again or something like that, and they are a wild card team, but they get bounced as how long it's been since, you probably do know this, the audience may not. You know how long it's been since the Steelers won a playoff game with Mike Tomlin?
2015, 2016.
8 years. 8 years is the last time that they've won a playoff game. Roethlisberger was still on the roster when they last
game
won a terrible game.
That's the one they lost, the first one.
But, well, they've had a lot of ugly playoff appearances, but it's been 8 years since they won a playoff game, which is not who you would associate the Pittsburgh Steelers to be. That is the definition. Like when Amy Adams Strunk fired Mike Vrabel and she said, well, it's not good enough to win more games than you lose. One, who the hell do you think the Tennessee Titans are? It should be good enough to win more games than you lose because you are a losing franchise historically, even though you've had some one or two, that's not fair, 3 or 4 nice stretches of football in 27, 28 years of the Tennessee Titans era. But that's not sustained success. It's kind of like, who do you think you are type of situation. If Mike Tomlin was to get fired or if he was to move on and the Pittsburgh Steelers said, well, it's just not good enough to win more games than we lose, that to me makes sense because they are winning more games than they lose and they do make the playoffs, but they don't get anywhere, right? It's just a futile exercise and that is a championship standard. Before the Patriots era of Tom Brady, that was the most winning organization in pro football. They had surpassed the 49ers, or at least on an even plane with the 49ers. I think they both have 6 Super Bowl championships in their history, in their respective franchises' history. So, like, the Steelers having a different standard than an organization like the Titans, I get. It feels like we're doing one last ride for a bunch of different people here.
It's a lot of fun too because DK Metcalf and Jalen Ramsey have a lot of beef from the Seahawks, Rams. I mean, I don't think they give a shit about that, but it is going to make for fun practice clips. It is going to make for fun training camp because if Jalen Ramsey is who you just paid him to acquired him to be, he's going to be covering their number ones. Joey Porter Jr. is going to move to the number 2 spot. But I can't. I mean, have you seen the clip of DK Metcalf getting super upset at like a youth camp where somebody's like, Jalen Ramsey's your daddy? He's like, why would you say that? Why would you say that? So now he gets to go to practice with his daddy. So it's nice that he gets to feel that LeBron Bronny style love, you know?
It's going to be a science experiment, if nothing else. I don't know if it'll be good television or good football. It'll probably be good television. It'll probably be bad football, if I'm being honest.
God, let's hope so. It's something else. I don't know if y'all noticed, but my eyes are popping, boy. Look at them things. And baby blues.
The red tint around your eyes is popping. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's white. That's white, baby.
It looks kind of like
it's jump in them deep pools.
It's like watching Sauron on Lord of the Rings. Oh, that's way too close. You see, the whites of your eyes are not in fact white. They just kind of look like they have that same yellow cigarette stain that that room you're in has.
Shut up. Shut up.
Get off my screen.
Right, bye.
That's going to do it for us tonight. We do appreciate your guys' time. As always, that's the last primetime show for the week. We will do 2 more radio shows, Tuesday and Wednesday. Easton will do primetime tomorrow night. That will be the last primetime show of the week. I am off Wednesday and Thursday for the holiday. Hope you guys have a phenomenal holiday weekend, but you can still hang out with us from 10 to 1 on the radio show with Bert and Lucas and me. Bruce Feldman will be on tomorrow. He's got some really good information on Arch Manning and the Tennessee quarterback commit, Brandon Faison, coming out of Elite 11. We have some really good Titans conversations to have tomorrow as well, and we will have a good time on Tuesday and Thursday, so we look forward to hanging out with you guys. Major Keys says, we will miss you, Buck. That's okay, because right above that is a comment that says, Buck sucks. Listen, balance in all things, right, baby? I think that we should always we do enjoy time together with one another. We really do. But we are getting ready to spend another football season together. And so the next couple of weeks, where I have a bunch of vacation coming up, it will be good it's absence makes the heart grow fonder. Or maybe some of you will still think that I suck, and I'll probably still think some of you suck, but that's okay. I love you anyway. It's good to see you. I'll take your clicks. Have a great weekend. Have a great rest of your evening. See you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
Acapella. Here we go. What's my name again?
Jonathan Davis.
Can you introduce me as if I was like on
Saturday Night Live?
Yeah. Like it's Saturday Night Live.
No, it's Bonnaroo week. Let's do it like he's the headliner. He's headlining Saturday night at Bonnaroo.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Davis.
Sometimes I cannot take this place.